Hello, and welcome to what will be the last video in our series, Our Church, which has been a series about the various images and symbols that make up St. Boniface Church. Because we're coming back together again to celebrate Mass together very soon, June 1st, as I said, this will be the last video in the series. However, we may pick this up again at a future date, so thank you for those who've tuned in. And again, this will be the last video for now in the series. And I thought for this last video we'd do something special. Rather than looking at any individual symbols in the church, we're going to look at the church building itself. This is a response to a special request, which I believe you received on Facebook, asking us to do a video on the history of the church. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do today, is take a look at the history of our church and what that church itself means as a symbol. But the church we have now is not actually the first St. Boniface church to sit on our property. That goes all the way back to the beginning. Parish began in 1857, and the first St. Boniface church was completed shortly after that, dedicated in 1863. Unfortunately, we don't have any images of that original St. Boniface church, and it burned in 1867. But the founding pastor of the parish, Father Obahova, who had worked to build that first church, also built the second St. Boniface church, which we do have an image of, and that's pictured here. This church was dedicated in 1873, a simple wooden St. Boniface church that served the people of our parish well for several decades. This next image should be familiar to many people in our parish. This is the third and final St. Boniface church. It was decided by the parish community after some decades with the previous church that the community needed a more durable church, not of wood but of stone and brick. And so that task was undertaken by Father Felix Verbinski. And this church, which is our current church, was completed in 1917. Now, interesting side note on Father Verbinski, he died shortly after the completion of the construction of the church, and his community memorialized his efforts in building that church by dedicating the tabernacle to him, and that is the tabernacle we have today. You see on the top of it where it says that it is dedicated in the memory of Father Verbinski. So again, we thank him and the parish of that time for giving us the beautiful church that we have today. Of course, our parishioners today know that that wasn't the end of the story for St. Boniface Church, as a major renovation was undertaken by the former pastor, Father Schultz, and completed in 2009. The renovation expanded the space for seating, added a gathering space, some church offices, did a lot of new things, and I know that some people in the parish have issues maybe with the way the renovation was handled. But I think we can all agree that they did a good job in respecting the integrity of the 1917 church while accomplishing the goals of the renovation. So we are certainly blessed to have the church as we have it today, and we thank everybody who worked to help make that possible over the years. So that is the history of our church. But what is a church? What does a church itself symbolize? A church is a sacred place that we set aside for God. We set that building aside for the worship and service of God. And in a sense, then, it symbolizes God. It reminds us that God is with us. Now, of course, we know God is with us everywhere. But what these sacred places, like our church do, is serve as a visual reminder of that. And we need that. We need those reminders. And so anytime anybody enters the church, anytime people drive by it on Route 8, you see St. Boniface Church, you know, you are reminded God is with us and we need to worship and serve him. That's what our church symbolizes for us. So thank you everyone once again for joining us for this series. I hope that everyone learns something about our church, learns something about the images of our faith. Again, we will probably pick this series up again at a future date, but for now we're going to step away as we are able on June 1st to come back together again in our church and experience that in person rather than just on video. So thank you again. Don't stop learning. Keep learning about our faith. Keep learning about our images. And above all, keep learning about our church.